Just saying hi.
Hi,
Hi,
everybody.
Bracha.
Thank you so much for coming to join me in this thoughts of Emuna and Bitachon so that I can strengthen myself and anybody listening, if it strengthens you and you get to strengthen yourself by talking, by joining the chat in any way that you do that. Be'ez Hashem, I hope this will be a space where we can strengthen ourselves and each other. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you for your message in the chat. It's so nice. And to those who listen to the recording, I'm so touched by those of you who reached out to me to tell me that you won't be able to make it live today. It's exceptionally meaningful to me that you feel that connection, that you wanted to let me know. And so I just say a big wave and a hi to everybody who's going to be listening to the recording. And I hope that it's going to be useful for everybody. Again, I am doing this mostly for me, and I'm so grateful to everybody who is joining in. And thank you to everybody. You may or may not want me to mention your name, so I'm just going to give a great big wave and a hug to everybody who's coming in. Thank you. I'm so grateful to see you, and I'm so grateful to be sharing this space with you, and to be really doing a deep dive into the thoughts of Reb Asher, Zecher Tzadik Livracha, and other Mefarshim, because when we speak the words of tzaddikim, um, we we bring their spirit alive for us. Um, Rabbi Dr. Abram Twersky said that when we learn from a sefer, there's a there's a suggestion that we imagine the Baal Sefer standing next to us, that we imagine the Demos, we imagine the personality of these great people with us. So if we could imagine Reb Asher Frein, let me show you a picture of Reb Asher, 1 second. If we're already talking about Reb Asher, trying to imagine him. So there's a picture of Reb Asher. This is a sefer about him, written by his Talmidim. I don't know of his biography translated into English, as far as I'm aware, but that's the picture on the biography put out in Hebrew. And was an incredible tzaddik. And again, I find his words so meaningful. That's why I want to, I'm loosely going to go according to Rav Asher, and here we're talking about his words on Purim. So let's jump right in, because we're still talking about simcha. We're still talking about, so what exactly is simcha then? And how do we fulfill it in these times? How can we, with the responsibility that we have to Klal Yisrael, and with the feelings that we have for what Klal Yisrael is going through, how can we move into simcha? Because part of it feels wrong. Some of it feels like it maybe isn't somehow honoring those who are suffering. I remember that one of the classes that I was going to give, which I try and make it not lighthearted, but at least entertaining for the women who are participating. And one of the women who's organizing it together with me was very reluctant to create any kind of evening that would be entertaining, feeling that maybe it was not appropriate. I don't agree with that. I think that wallowing in misery is not honoring anybody who is suffering, and that those who are suffering certainly don't want others to only be miserable, but to strengthen ourselves in emunah and bitachon in any way that we can, and increasing the simcha that we can feel and what that actually means for us. Be'ez Hashem is going to help us to not only strengthen ourselves, but because Kol Yisrael are raving, each one of us is a raving. We are responsible for each other, but we're also mu'urav. We are also connected and mingled together. And what does that mean? The Talmud Devorah says that there's a little bit of our soul in the soul of every other Jew, and there's a little bit of the soul of every single Jew within our souls, so that our souls are mingled together. And so every way that we strengthen ourselves, we're also strengthening others. And if we bring a true simcha, we're going to be understanding today, Be'ez, we're going to come out with a real plan of how to bring real Jewish, authentic simcha into ourselves at this time. When we do that for ourselves, we're also giving strength to those who are suffering in whatever ways, wherever they are, and all Klal Yisrael. Bagalusam, wherever they are in their galus. And that's exactly where Reb Asher starts. Smechim anu gambalus begalusenu. We are samechim, and I'm going to stick to the word sameach rather than translating it as happy. We're just going to stick to the word sameach. Hi everybody who's here and everybody who's joining in. Mitzvah lismach bepurim al afi yosein begalus. It's a mitzvah to be besimcha on Purim, even when we're still in galus, even in our poverty and our suffering, through all of the different kinds of suffering, our physical suffering, our spiritual suffering, the suffering of our nefesh, the suffering of a guf. A yid must, it's incumbent upon us to be besimcha and to thank and to praise HaKadosh Baruch Hu for the nisim and the niflais that he does, even in the intense darkness within which we find ourselves, even in the most intense darkness. Reb Asher was a leader who understood the most darkest times of Klal Yisrael because because he knew the spirit of Klal Yisrael. He knew people, he knew broken souls, so he knew the greatest darkness that people were suffering. And what is this miracle of Purim that we keep celebrating it year after year, generation after generation? Haman wanted to destroy us, and Achashverosh agreed that through him they would destroy and get rid of all of the Jews. And Kadosh Baruch Hu made Rahmanas upon us, and he turned it all around, and the awful plan of those evil people was turned upon them. And that same miracle is happening throughout every generation at very close intervals throughout our history. And even though there are times where there's still tremendous suffering is afflicted, we have to know that if it wasn't for the miracles that Hashem was doing, it would be many, many, many times worse. That even within all that we're experiencing, HaKadosh Baruch Hu matzilenu miyadam. HaKadosh Baruch Hu saves us from their hand. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu does this, and he does incredible miracles. And throughout the war that we've been suffering over the last year and a half, there have been incredible miracles together with all of the suffering. We have to hold place side by side for both of these truths. There is the truth that there's horrible, tremendous suffering, and there is also the truth that there's tremendous miracles, and that we have to witness the miracles and thank for those miracles. Not just thank for them, but feel an incredible indebtedness and feel simcha. Feel a simcha for the tremendous miracles that Kadosh Baruch Hu is doing for us. And we know the famous vort on the pasuk, Halu es Hashem kol goyim, ki gova aleinu chasdei. The goyim, you should thank Hashem, it says in Hallel, because Hashem has poured out a tremendous bracha over us. Why are the goyim thanking Hashem? And the Mephoshim answer, because they know what they planned. They know what they were trying to do. They know the extent of what they wanted to do, and what they still want to do, and what they keep trying to do. And the intense and overwhelming miracles that are coming our way all the time, they are an incredible obligation upon us to thank the Kadosh Baruch Hu and be cognizant and conscious of the constant miracles that Hashem is doing to protect us. All of us who were in Eretz Yisrael, those nights where Iran was sending over an incredible amount of artillery, more than had ever been sent in any time, in any place, in one night against any destination. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu protected us in incredibly miraculous ways. Just last week, tremendous miracles took place. Many of you may have known what happened, where bombs were set to go off. And it was supposed to go off in the morning, on Friday morning. They went off Thursday night where nobody was around. The buses were empty where they went off. It was supposed to only be a distraction. Rahman al-Islam, what was planned and what our enemies are still planning for us all the time, didn't happen. It wasn't able to happen. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is protecting us and doing miracles for us. And it says that why didn't Mordechai establish that for all the generations, and Chazal did not establish that we say Hallel for Purim. We don't say Hallel on Purim because we are still in Golus, and because they are still out to get us in every way. So there's two truths happening at the same time here. There's the incredible pain and suffering that we feel in our hearts, but that is being experienced by so many in so many awful ways. And that those of us that have a heart, we find we're having a hard time digesting this and living with this. And at the same time, there's the incredible miracles that are happening all the time, every minute and every moment. And we mustn't let ourselves get dragged down into the tsar, into the pain, because we can allow ourselves to be buoyed and to be encouraged and to be hopeful because of the many miracles that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is surrounding us with. And that's why Mordechai and Esther didn't allow at the time of their simcha, they didn't forget that they were in Galus, and that's why they didn't establish Hallel. As they says in Divrei Chazal, that we're still the avodim of Achashverosh, and Esther Hamalka was still very much the eved of Achashverosh. She was a prisoner for her entire life, even after the miracles of Purim took place and saved Klal Yisrael. But Esther Hamalka herself stayed in her own personal servitude her entire life, that she gave up for Klal Yisrael. We are lucky to be able to announce that Hallelu Avdei Hashem, we're waiting for that day when we can say, all of us are only servants of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We're not in Galus. We're waiting for that day we'll be able to say it. We're not yet able to say that. But together with that, we still have to be b'simcha, even though we're in Galus. So we have to hold on to these two opposites within our hearts. Somebody once asked the Boston Rebbe's at Tzal, Rav Levi Yitzchak of Boston. They asked him, how do we hold on to all of the pain and the simcha? How can we do this? And he said, we have to have pockets in our heart. We have to hold space within our hearts for these two conflicting emotions. That's Jewish life. We may be going to a shiva call during the day, and then we'll go to a chasana at night, and then tomorrow morning go to a bris, and then go visit somebody sick in hospital. Rahman al-Islam, everybody should have a for shalema. This is no surprise. This is nothing that is a stranger to Jewish life, but this is how we live our lives. We have to have these two pockets, as the Bostoner Zecher Tzadik Livracha taught. And that's what Rav Asher tells us. Imai Anoichi B'Tzara, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is with us in the Tsar. This is the essence of what those two pockets mean. Imai Anoichi, Hashem is with us, B'Tzara, and we are B'Tzara. We are in the Tzara, and Imai Anoichi, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu is with us. We have the closeness of Hashem in the midst of the Tzara. In the midst of our galus, He is not going to leave us. He is not going to abandon us. He is not going to leave us, and He's not going to abandon us. And we need to keep saying these things, and we need to keep repeating these things. And again, the more that we say these things, the more that we're going to believe them. No matter what the tzara is that we are dealing with personally, whether it's an emotional tzara, whether it's a physical tzara, whether it's a spiritual tzara, and we're dealing with the gamut of tzar. Klal Yisrael is no stranger to tzar. And again, every single person has their own individual heart, their own individual kind of tzara. If everybody had the same tsar, if everyone had the same pain, everyone had the same journey, in some way, we wouldn't feel isolated, alone. It would be much more natural to feel, well, we all have the same thing. That would be just part of life. One of the challenges that makes all of our lives so unique, and then adds to the uniqueness of our own pain, is that no one's pain is just like somebody else's. We all have a different path in our pain. For one, it's the marriage. For one, it's not having a marriage. For one, it's the children. For one, it's not having the children. For one, it's the physical pain. For one, it's the everything that goes together with the physical pain. One is parnasa. One, it's the challenge that they have from all of the wealth. Everybody has a multitude of challenges. Not only one. In our generation, there's so much. But Imay Anoichi, Kadosh Baruch Hu, is with us. We're never alone. He says we are suffering physical challenges. We're suffering physical challenges through the enemies who are trying to wipe us out. And we're also suffering spiritual and emotional challenges through our own brothers. Throughout the generation, this has been another one of those challenges. It's our own people. It's those who self-hating Jews around the world and here in Israel who are attacking us and relentlessly. And we might think, like, take a break. We're in the middle of a war. Like, don't you want to just like take a break from chasing after the Torah Yidden? No, they don't want to take a break. They want to keep pursuing us as well. We have to, right? We wonder, how are we surviving? If it wasn't for Kadosh Baruch Hu keeping us alive and keep giving us the means to keep going day by day, we would have no way to survive. We wouldn't survive if it wasn't for the miracles Kadosh Baruch Hu does for us every single day. And as long as we're surviving, as long as we're alive, as long as we are here, we have a place to be, we have a roof over our heads, we have food to eat today. It says in Parshas Aman, Lechem Yom B'Yom, we have today what we need today. If we have today what we need today, we can breathe, we can manage the pain in some way, we can, we have someone to talk to, we have a place to share. If we have what we need today, we may be uncomfortable, but our needs are met. We're here, we're alive. HaKadosh Baruch Hu has kept us going. Then we have to whom to thank, and we have to whom to look for to bring more Be'ezras Hashem, to give us what we're going to need tomorrow. So what's the simcha? What's the true simcha? And thank you all so much for being here. It gives me such strength to be able to share this with all of you. It fills my heart with warmth and connection to every single person who is here. I thank you, every single person who is joining, to give me the opportunity to share these beautiful and inspiring words of Reb Asher Zecher Tzadik Lefracha. And Reb Asher gives us the answer to what is simcha. He says, whether our hearts are open to it or not, he says, simcha shel mitzvah is the mitzvah that we have to feel. Okay, in the beginning of Hilchas Lulav, the Rambam said that we have to fulfill the mitzvahs with simcha, and anybody who doesn't fulfill the mitzvahs with simcha is chayav. He is it's going to be taken down. It's going to be noted that an essential part of fulfilling the mitzvah. Again, this is not to put the fear of punishment into us. That's not what we're talking about here. But to understand that one of the most vital elements of the mitzvahs is the simcha shel mitzvah. That's what the Rambam says. And that's what Bosher is basing his words on here. Chayavim nismach. We have to be besimcha shel mitzvah. Okay, let's talk about what is simcha shel mitzvah. It doesn't mean that we need to be laughing and dancing while we do a mitzvah. Doesn't mean that. There are some mitzvahs that we do by laughing and dancing. There are some mitzvahs that we don't do laughing and dancing, right? The mitzvah of nichum avelim, going to visit those who are in mourning. We don't go in dancing and singing with a big buksa, with a big speaker on our shoulders. That's not appropriate. That's not how we do the mitzvah. But the mitzvah that we want to fulfill is besimcha. So again, we're plagued with that question. So do we have to reassess what simcha means? And the answer is yes. We really need to reassess what simcha means in order to be able to understand how to fulfill the simcha shel mitzvah of Purim, and not only of Purim, but of our whole lives. Because this we can infer from this how to fulfill the simcha shel mitzvah in our whole lives. Let's just understand first of all, and again, I take liberty. I'll go into the words of Reb Asher, and then I'll take a step aside. This is a little aside. The Baal Shem Tov explained the word mitzvah is rooted in two words grammatically. The mitzvah, the word of litzavot, the root is to command. As we know, these are commandments. The literal translation is a commandment. Baal Shem Tov says there's another grammatical root of the word mitzvah, and that is tzavta, together. That every mitzvah has within it togetherness with the Kadosh Baruch Hu. That's the root of every mitzvah, the one who he commanded us to do the mitzvahs. But Tzivanu, he commanded us to do this mitzvah, so he's together with us in this mitzvah. And this is one of the ways that the Baal Shem Tov Zatzal would encourage the poor, broken people in Europe during his time, where he would go from poor little hamlet to poor little village, and he found Yidden that were so busy working that they could barely scrape out time to look in a safe. They didn't know how to read. They knew their tefillah by heart. They knew a few kapitel of Tehillim by heart, and that's what they had, and they felt like they were nothing. They felt that, who were they to a Kadosh Baruch Hu? And the Baal Shem Tov went around all these little places, and he said to them, every mitzvah that you do, you have togetherness with the Rebbeinu Shel Olam. Every mitzvah that you do, you have a devekus with the Kadosh Baruch Hu. That is the source of our simcha, as we understood that the Beis Aaron says that what is simcha? What is the translation? What does it mean? It means devekus. It means attachment to Hashem. So now we can understand this understanding that simcha shel mitzvah means tuning into the devekus of the mitzvah, to the one who gave the mitzvah. And that we can do with every single mitzvah that we do. And maybe we can understand now why we have so many mitzvahs in a very small day, which is Purim. This year it's even smaller, Erev Shabbos. But we have so many mitzvahs. It's one of those jam-packed days where we run from Megillah to giving out the Matanis Lev Yoinim to giving the Mishloach Manos and running back home for the Suda. It's a massive rush. There's a lot to fill into one day. And Hashem is packed with so many mitzvahs in order to give us the simcha of the day, in order to give us to tune in to the devekus of the day, because it is a day with such potential for devekus, with such potential for closeness and feeling close and attachment to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and acquiring the benefit of that devekus. There's so much blessing in the day of Purim that the more we tune into how lucky we are and how blessed we are to have these mitzvahs, the more that we can feel the connection that we have to Kadosh Baruch Hu, the more it will be a bracha for us and bring bracha into our lives. So he said, in the world, how do they experience their happiness? He said that if they would somehow acquire a beautiful new fancy home, or when they get honor, or where they get a huge rise to a new fantastic honorable position, then in the rest of the world, that's where they get their happiness. And then Chazal teach us, and they say that they measure everything in the world. I mean, Chazal measure everything, but midas ha'emes, only according to the truth of what it really means. And they establish a different kind of measurement for what happiness, for what simcha really means. And they say, in the Gemara in Shabbos, he brings down, on Divrei Koheles, this is the Koheles Ecclesiastes that was written by Shlomo Melech, the wisest of all men. V'shabachti ani et simcha, I praised simcha. What does that mean? Zu simcha shel mitzvah. That is simcha. That is the simcha that we experience when we do a mitzvah. And then Chazal say, in a different place, Ola simcha mazuaise, what's the purpose of simcha? They answer, Zu simcha she'einu shel mitzvah. What is the purpose of simcha? Meaning, it really has no meaning, it has no use, it has no value. That is any kind of simcha that is not simcha shel mitzvah, that is not attached to a mitzvah. So let's be even more, let's look even more closely into the holy words of Chazal. Thank you for being here. They don't say, what is this simcha that is a mitzvah of holiness? Holiness is an extravagant external show that is no value. It could lead to inappropriate behavior. That is holiness in the words of Chazal. They don't say that simcha is necessarily problematic, a simcha that's wild, or people misbehaving in the streets. No, they don't say that. They're not actually relating to that at all. They're not saying that it's meaningless to have hoylelis, but they're saying it's meaningless to have simcha that's not simcha shel mitzvah. Zu simcha she'einoi shel mitzvah. And this is what Shlomo Melech said when he said, Mazaisa, what does simcha do? She'ena v'loi klum. Any kind of simcha that is not attached to a mitzvah is garnished. It's just nothing. It's like just a wind. It's just like a piece of nothing. It has no value at all. That is what Chazal teach us. Kol simcha she'ena krucha b'dvar shel mitzvah yichol likarei simcha b'kol ha'olam kulai. That's almost kulam. Any happiness that is not attached to a mitzvah could be called happiness by the goyim and by the whole world, but not by Klal Yisrael. That's not how we value simcha. And the Meforshim of Chazal, of Shlomo Melech said, Ayishiv Kavod, those that think, the honor and wealth, those things that bring happiness to the goyim, Shlomo Melech had them without limit. He was the king of Klal Yisrael. He was not only the king of Klal Yisrael, but he was the king of Klal Yisrael. In the time of Shlomo was considered the golden era, where there was wealth, where there was honor. The Beis Hamikdash was in its prime. The nations flocked to bring korbanos and to be close to Shlomo Melech and bring tributes to him. The Queen of Sheba brought tributes to him. Politically, the state was in a tremendous, powerful position. So Shlomo HaMelech, at his peak, he had everything. He had all of the good of this world without limits. But he was the one that said, any simcha that is not connected to a mitzvah is nothing, has nothing. So why? We might ask ourselves why. And then how are we supposed to bring this into our lives now? He says, every simcha that doesn't have its root in the mitzvahs that Hashem has created for us really could bring a person to misbehave, act out, to do things that are not appropriate. It's not going to bring us to closer to Hashem and appropriate behavior. And he said, unfortunately, we see people that when they get heady with success and when they feel that they've achieved something, all of a sudden they might allow themselves to say things that are not appropriate. They might allow themselves to act in ways that are not appropriate. They may be very haughty and ascribe their success to themselves and look down on other people and allow themselves to say things that really would not be appropriate. So, stam simcha, meaning a simcha that is just not attached to a mitzvah, makes a person a little bit drunk, confuses his intellect, and it is dangerous. It's actually dangerous. So Rav Asher is teaching us here that whenever we want to experience simcha, if you want to do simcha in a way that is pleasing to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, if we want to develop the midah of simcha in an emistic way, in a way that is edel, in a way that is fine, in a way that is Yiddish and authentically the way the Torah wants us to behave, it is going to be a simcha shel mitzvah. Now, we have mitzvahs tamidios. We have constant mitzvahs, right? 6 constant mitzvahs. We have mitzvahs that we need to be engaged in every moment. There's always a reason to be besimcha in the constant mitzvahs. If we just think of the mitzvah of devekes b'Hashem, it's a mitzvah to be davek b'Hashem. To believe in Him is a mitzvah. To be davek in Hashem is a mitzvah. To have avos Hashem and yiras Hashem, and not to go after your eyes and your heart. These are all constant mitzvahs. Anytime we engage in one of these mitzvahs, whether it's developing our emunah, we are working on a constant mitzvah. Anytime we ascribe our success to a Kadosh Baruch Hu, anytime we remember the miracles of Hashem and remember Hashem's presence, we're involved in a constant mitzvah. Anytime we attach ourselves to Hashem. And Rav Yaakov Adis said that we can say these words: I am attaching myself to Hashem, and I'm drawing the light of Hashem into my soul. When we say those words, we are fulfilling the mitzvah, but boy, to attach to Hashem. People think that his constant mitzvahs means something like you need to be some kind of transcendental person to be able to do that. We don't. With these simple words, Rav Yaakov Adis teaches us, we say, I'm attaching myself to Hashem, and I'm drawing the light of Hashem into my soul. A tremendous simcha can fill us when we say those words. And it's going to be an emes simcha. It's going to be a true Jewish simcha in our hearts, a simcha that's not going to take us on the wrong path, a simcha shel mitzvah. But back to the words of Rab Asher. Rab Asher says, simcha shel mitzvah uplifts the spirit of a person with the holiness of the mitzvah. His spirit is lifted and refined, and a grace of a pure gracefulness is going to be given to him, and it's going to be apparent on our faces when we attach ourselves to that kind of simcha. The simcha of Purim. One second. The simcha of Purim that we saw and that we still see and we witness by the Gedolim of Yisrael, the Goyim and the Tzaddikim, that the kind of ways that they celebrated the mitzvahs of the simcha of Purim is so different from the way that the low kinds of people would celebrate it. It was an uplifting kind of a simcha. It was incredibly uplifting, but we can attach to the same kind of uplifting tone. We don't have to be one of the Gedolei Yisrael to say those simple words of Rav Yaakov Adis, or to just tell myself, Einad Movadoi. Every moment that we say Einad Movadoi is a moment of the constant mitzvah of Emunah. And the truth is that the Rambam says there in Hilchos Lulav that every mitzvah has simcha. Every mitzvah has within it the potential to feel the simcha. If we don't experience it yet, that doesn't mean that we're doing something wrong. We just need to work a little bit more. We need to tune into it. But we learn from the Rambam that just as a rimon, just as a pomegranate is filled with juice, and every mitzvah is filled with simcha. Every mitzvah has within it the capacity to bring us simcha shel mitzvah. It's there. It's not something that we have to go and look for. It's within the mitzvah itself. Is the simcha of debeka, the simcha of attachment to Hashem. And when we want to achieve that, when we want to, and we put our intention into the longing to attach ourselves to the simcha shel mitzvah within every mitzvah, we will achieve more and more simcha shel mitzvah. And that's how we can achieve a constant level of simcha. And we can increase our levels of simcha, even in the tzara, whatever that we're in the middle of, because we attach ourselves to the simcha shel mitzvah that is never going to be worn out. It's never going to be abandoned. And by doing that, by attaching ourselves to the simcha, the mitzvahs of Purim specifically, there's a segula of the mitzvahs of Purim specifically to bring a new kind of inspiration and influx of simcha into our hearts. And so HaKadosh Baruch Hu has given us these mitzvahs, the mitzvah of Kriyas Megillah, which reminds us of the incredible hashgacha and the yad Hashem within history and within our own personal lives. The mitzvah of Matanos Levyonim, that even the Evyoin is going to receive his needs, and we get to be givers, and we get to be a part of that. Am Yisrael is together sharing and giving so that everybody's needs are met. And we have the mitzvah of Mashloach Manos, Yehu, to bring brotherly love and enhance the sense of community so that we feel connected to other people. Because we're not meant to be an island. There's tremendous simcha in that mitzvah. And finally, the mishtava simcha, that we know when we talk about women and food, yeah, maybe the men are the ones getting drunk, okay? But women preparing food, eating food. When we eat the Suda on Purim, let's not think about being on a diet. Let's not think about, let's try and prepare healthy foods that we can enjoy and eat without any conscience during that Suda, and celebrate with the meal the miracles that HaKadosh Baruch has done for us, because it's a Jewish way to celebrate. Throughout the ages, eating has been a celebration. And so even though eating is often fraught with all kinds of challenge, but let's understand that probably within the simcha of eating the Seuda on Purim, we can bring simcha back into our relationship with food. And so more than throughout the whole year, we can receive this inspiration of an elevated kind of simcha into our hearts through connecting to the simcha shel mitzvah of Purim. And through watching our Gedolim throughout the ages, we get to understand what true simcha is. If a person is not happy because he's not, because physically he's suffering, he can't begin to grasp the simcha of the mitzvah of his creator. He can send matanas levyanim, he can give mishloach manos, he can celebrate Purim because of the mitzvahs of Purim that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is giving. And that is our path to true simcha shel mitzvah. And any other kind of simcha that is not simcha shel mitzvah isn't a simcha. It sounds like a hard request, but we could try, even if we get it a little bit, even if we can increase our attachment. Remember, it's a mitzvah. When we attach ourselves to the mitzvah of the Suda, attach ourselves to the mitzvah of Mishloach Manos, the more we attach ourselves to the mitzvah there, we are going to be experiencing the simcha. Okay? We can tune into it. We may need to take a moment of quiet within whatever's going on and experience it within ourselves and just say, I'm fulfilling this mitzvah of Seudas Purim, of Mishta V'Simcha. I'm fulfilling this mitzvah of Kriyas Megillah, and I want to experience the simcha within this mitzvah. I want to say to myself, I know there is simcha in this mitzvah, and I want to experience it. Please, Rabban Shalom, allow me to experience the simcha of this mitzvah. And the more that we do this, Hashem is certainly going to give us this simcha, because Hashem wants to give us this simcha. Kadosh Baruch Hu is waiting to share that simcha with us, because our simcha of mitzvah is a shared simcha with Kadosh Baruch Hu. That's the tzavta. It's our simcha, it's the Rebbeinu Shalom simcha. We're together with Him. The devekas. Devekas means attachment. It's not only our devekas to Hashem. It means our Hashem's devekas to us. We open the door for Hashem to be close to us. It's Hashem simcha in the simcha shel mitzvah. And that's what Hashem wants us to do. If anyone has any questions, please put them in a chat. I'm happy to relate to them. I want to thank you all for being here. I so valued being able to share these words. And as usual, Hashem gave me these words of inspiration to be able to give to you. I wouldn't get them for myself. I only get them in order to share them. And so I thank you all for being here, for helping me be a rusty conduit to pass through, hoping that I don't in any way negatively influence the holy words of Reb Asher. And we will not be getting together next week. Next week is going to be Purim Be'ez Hashem. At this time next week, here in Eretz Yisrael, we'll be listening to the Megillah, we'll be celebrating Purim, and you in Chutz La'aretz will be preparing so much for the Yom Tov. And I really, truly wish us all, and everybody who's going to be listening to this, a Purim where we truly connect to the Simcha Shel Mitzvah of all of those mitzvahs, and that the hashpah, that the influence of connecting to the Simcha Shel Mitzvah changes the whole way that we experience Simcha, that we experience ourselves, that we experience mitzvahs throughout the year. Freilichen Purim to everybody. Bye for now.
Hannah Hinda?
Yes. Hi.
Hi. Am I allowed to say something now?
Absolutely, yes. But just maybe you want to tell me who it is first, and then I'd love to hear from you.
It's Sarah Leah Goldstein, and
Hi.
I'm not on Zoom. That's why I just did *6 to see if it unmuted, and it did. So is it okay if I share something for everyone? Thank you so much, Chris. Thank you for your beautiful words.
Yes.
Thank you, and for everything you give over. I just wanted to mention that I heard a shir last night from a Rabbi Klein. I forget his first name, but I know he's very connected to the Dolvavi. Rabbi Tamar
Yes.
Schwartz, Shlita in Eretz Yisrael. So I don't know if it's from Rabbi Schwartz or from Rabbi Schwartz, but he said about women, because you mentioned that men, about them getting drunk and women don't. So just Dafka last night, he said, women are on a high, I don't want to say, do I mean higher level? I don't know. I don't want to say, what he didn't say, but my understanding was they're on a level that they don't need to get drunk because they're there already. They can access that already. So I just wanted to share that point.
Beautiful, Sarah. Thank you so much for adding that and sharing that. This is a community. It's a chabur. If anybody has anything else that they want to share, please go ahead and unmute. I'd love to hear from anybody else. Thank you, Sarah. I really, really appreciate your words and your saying that.
I'd just like to add to that one. So, Sarah, thank you for that. But I once heard, and I don't remember from where, but it was a good source, that men have to put on tefillin every day, and women don't. So why? It's not because we're less than. They wear tefillin, so they remember the Eibishter once a day when they put the tefillin on. It's for them to remember HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But we women always know that Hashem is there, and we remember Hashem all the time, so we don't need the additional reminder.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful.
Thank you, Chai, for that. I appreciate your speaking up. Thank you so much. And thank you for sharing in the chat to me that you're going to try Be'ez Hashem and have the Simcha Shel Mitzvah when things get challenging. Yeah, it's definitely hard. We're not saying it's easy, but it is going to be a pathway to Simcha, to Emes Simcha, that we can access no matter where we are, no matter what mitzvah we're doing. We can find a mitzvah and access the Simcha Shel Mitzvah at that time. And so it's profound, but it's relatively simple. It's simple to understand. It's very profound to be able to go into the depth of Simcha Shel Mitzvah, no matter where we are. Yeah. Anybody else wanted to add anything?
I do have an addition. Oh, go ahead, everybody else. I don't want to take from someone else's.
Go on. You started talking, and then someone else will carry on afterwards. Go ahead.
Okay. Just the idea that the woman is the Ikeres Habayis. She's the mainstay of the home. So wherever she is, whoever she's around will have a ripple from her, whether it's her family or whomever. I'm extending that, whoever she is in contact and touches. So the more we work on ourselves, we don't have to think about fixing anyone else. They will just happen. Hashem will make it happen. Absolutely. Where we are, they will be.
Absolutely. So powerful and so true. Very, very much so. That's right. In fact, the more we pour into ourselves and the more we really prioritize what we can do to make ourselves the best version of ourselves, that's going to have the greatest influence. Thank you so much for sharing that. Yes. Beautiful. Fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. Yes.
I have something I can share.
Go ahead. Yeah.
My name is Tova.
Hi, Tova.
I learned something that was really powerful for me, and that is that anytime that you're feeling pain, it teaches you what is important to you. And often when we feel pain, often it's like disconnection. And a mitzvah is really a connection.
Beautiful.
Connecting to Hashem.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely beautiful. Any idea where that came from? Because it's so beautiful. It's true.
I just was thinking about, that a mitzvah is, that's what it is. It's connecting to Hashem.
That's right. That's right. And it's true, but probably that the greatest pain is the lack of connection. Probably. I mean, certainly for women, we thrive on our connections and we need our relationships, and the feeling of disconnect from ourselves and from others and from Hashem is profoundly painful. So it makes greater sense. So you're right. So in a sense, it's like as if the greatest healing and the greatest gift and the greatest power of the positive is the connection, the opposite of all of that, all of the greatest pains there. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing. Beautiful.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Wow, ladies, it's such a schus to be together with you. I'm so grateful. Anybody else want to add or share something? Okay. Tizkun mitzvahs, a freilichen Purim to everybody, and may truly the simcha of Purim enter into our hearts, and may we really attach ourselves to special mitzvah on Purim and throughout the year. I look forward to joining with you again. Be'ez Hashem, the week after Purim. So in 2 weeks' time, B'siyata Dishmaya. Bye, everybody.